The smell of roasted coffee beans and expensive perfume was starting to give me a headache. Or maybe it was the fact that I had been sitting at table 4 for 20 minutes, staring at an empty chair like it might suddenly apologize for standing me up. The bistro was loud, packed with voices crashing into each other, bouncing off exposed brick walls, drowning out the soft jazz trying its best to survive through the speakers. I checked my watch again. 7:25 p.m. The blind date my sister set up was officially dead. I wasn't shocked. My life lately was a cycle of job sites, cracked concrete, and sleepless nights. I spent my days checking load-bearing walls and my nights replaying calculations in my head. I was wearing a plain gray t-shirt and jeans, still dusty from an inspection I came straight from. Not exactly the kind of man people dreamed about meeting over candlelight. I stood up to leave, my knee knocking the table leg. Silverware rattled. A waiter rushed past with a tray of martinis, and I stepped back too fast, turning without looking. That's how I ended up sliding into the booth behind me. I landed hard on the leather seat, directly across from a woman who clearly wasn't my date. She didn't even look up. Her table was covered in blueprints, spread wide like a battlefield map, a sugar dispenser pinned one corner, a salt shaker another. She muttered under her breath, low and fast, like she was arguing with the paper itself. 2 weeks. I can't do this in 2 weeks. This is impossible. I started to scoot out. Sorry, wrong seat. My fault. She looked up. I froze. Dark hair fell in heavy waves around her shoulders. Her eyes were sharp but tired, like they had carried too much for too long. She wore a bright floral dress that didn't match the stress written all over her face. This wasn't the kind of tired sleep fixed. This was the kind that lived in your bones. You're late, she said flatly. I paused halfway out of the booth. I think there's been a misunderstanding. The contractor, she said, tapping the blueprint with a red fingernail. You were supposed to be here at 7. I've been staring at this wall diagram for 20 minutes and it still looks like a roadmap to hell. Sit down. I glanced back at my empty table, then at her again. I should have corrected her. I should have said I wasn't who she thought I was. I should have walked out, gone home, eaten something sad from the microwave. But my eyes dropped to the paper under her elbow. Even upside down, I saw it instantly. The load calculation on the support beam was wrong, off by a factor of 3. If she built it like this, the roof wouldn't last a winter. I sat down. You're only looking at static load, I said, pointing. You didn't account for live load if people are going to be on that mezzanine. She stared at me, then at the paper, then back at me. Color rose up her neck. You're the guy. Sutton's guy. I'm Rhodes, I said. It wasn't a lie. She let out a breath like a tire losing air. Thank God I'm Meline. And if you tell me this building is condemned, I might cry right into this very expensive pasta sauce. Her hands shook as she reached for her water. I knew that shake. I saw it every morning in the mirror. Let me see the specs, I said. The waiter tried to interrupt twice. Meline waved him away and ordered coffee like it was medicine. 2 cappuccinos arrived, steam rising between us. I reached for my wallet without thinking. She covered my hand with hers, light, deliberate. Put it away, she said. You already saved my roof. I slid it back. Coffee wasn't a rescue, it was a truce. For the next hour, the rest of the restaurant disappeared. I pulled out my drafting pen and marked up her drawings. The place was an old foundry she wanted to turn into a wedding hall and community space. The city was circling, waiting for a reason to shut her down. I fixed beam calculations, sketched reinforcements, moved fire exits to meet code. I worked the way I always did. Cold. Precise. Focused. When I capped my pen, the bistro had nearly emptied. You're really good, she said softly. I do my job, I replied. Then I hesitated. But this is a lot. There's rot here. The trusses are questionable. You're looking at 50,000 in steel alone. Quote. The light in her eyes dimmed. I don't have that, she whispered. Then you don't have a venue, I said. Blunt. Gravity didn't care about feelings. She pulled the papers back, stiff and silent. Thank you for your time. I assume you'll invoice me. I watched her knuckles turn white against the table. She wasn't breathing. She was drowning. "I'm not the contractor," I said. She froze. "What?" "I sat at the wrong table. My date didn't show." Silence. "You just did an hour of work for free," she said slowly. "I couldn't let you build that," I replied. "It would have killed someone." She laughed once, dry and broken. "Thanks for saving a life. Now I have to go tell my staff they're unemployed." She started packing up. I stood. I should have left, but my feet didn't move. "You missed a stress fracture on page 4, I said quietly, "and I've got nothing else to do tonight." She studied me. A small smile touched her lips. "Your eyes," she said softly. "They tell me you want to stay." "My eyes are tired," I lied. "Stay," she said. "I'll buy you coffee. Then you can tell me how to fix page 4 without $50,000. And somehow, without meaning to, I stayed. The ironworks smelled like rust and old rain. It sat at the edge of the river like a tired giant, brick walls darkened by decades of weather and neglect. I parked my truck beside a dumpster overflowing with broken drywall and twisted metal. I told myself I was only there to drop off a formal report I had typed up. Just a professional courtesy. Nothing more. It had been 3 days since the bistro. I walked through the side door and stopped cold. A man in a charcoal suit stood in the middle of the main hall, his voice echoing off the high ceiling. Clean shoes, perfect hair. He didn't belong there. I knew him by reputation before I knew his face. Sutton Allen. He bought properties cheap after the city bled owners dry. Everyone in construction knew his name. Meline stood in front of him, arms crossed tight over her chest. Work boots. Jeans. She looked smaller than she had at the cafe. "The inspection is Friday," Sutton said smoothly. "And we both know this place is a death trap. You're out of time. Sell it to me. I'll cover the debts." "I'm not selling," Meline said. Her voice shook, but she didn't step back. "This was my father's building. It stays in the family." "It stays in the family until the city condemns it," Sutton replied, stepping closer. "You're drowning. Let me pull you out." Something in the air shifted. It wasn't physics. It was worse. I stepped forward. My boots echoed across the concrete. Loud, steady. Sutton turned, annoyed. "Who are you?" I didn't answer him. I walked straight to Meline and stopped beside her, close enough that my shoulder brushed hers. I angled my body just enough to stand between them. "We're busy," I said, low, calm. Sutton looked me up and down, sneering at my dusty shirt. "And you are?" "I'm the structural engineer," I said, "and you're standing in a hard hat zone without protection. You need to leave." He laughed. "I'm a councilman." "And I don't care," I replied. "Insurance liability. Section 4002. Get out." I held his gaze. I didn't blink. I'd stared down cranes in high wind. He was just a man in a suit. His smile faltered. "Friday," he said to Meline. "Noon." Then he left. The door slammed. The echo lingered. Meline leaned back against a column, closing her eyes. "You didn't have to do that." He was standing under a loose pallet, I said, pointing up. "I don't like paperwork." She opened her eyes and looked at me. Really looked. "You came back." "I typed up the report," I said, handing her the folder. "Focus on fire suppression and egress. You might pass temporary occupancy." Her fingers brushed mine as she took it. Warm. I shoved my hand into my pocket too fast. "I can't afford you," she said quietly. "I know." I looked around. The building was rough, but the bones were strong. Old steel. Honest work. "I've got vacation time. I need to burn," I said. "I hate seeing good steel wasted." She raised an eyebrow. "You want to trade?" "I fix the structure," I said. "You feed me." Her smile broke across her face like sunrise. "I make a lasagna that will make you cry." "I don't cry," I said, "but I'll take the lasagna." The next 2 weeks blurred together. I showed up before dawn and stayed past midnight. I wasn't the consultant anymore. I was the guy with a wrench. Meline worked beside me every day, scraping paint, hauling debris, running wire. One night, sweat soaked through my shirt as I finished a weld. She handed me water. "You're really good at this," she said. "Why do you look so miserable?" The question hit harder than any beam. "I made a mistake once," I admitted. "Almost missed it. If I had, people could have died." She didn't comfort me. She just nodded. "That's why you're here," she said. "Because you can't stand unfinished things." She touched my arm, light, careful. "You can rest sometimes," she said. "The building won't fall if you stop." "It might," I said. "Then let it," she replied fiercely. "I'd rather lose the building than you." I wanted to kiss her. I almost did. A loud crash interrupted us. Delivery truck. The moment passed, but something stayed. Friday came fast. Inspector Miller walked the building. Sutton watched from the corner like a vulture. "This is solid work," Miller said finally. "Temporary occupancy approved." Malene hugged me without thinking, my arms wrapped around her before my brain caught up. Then Sutton spoke. "What about the outstanding lien?" Malene went pale. $12,000. Payable immediately. I didn't think. I just moved. An hour later, the receipt was stamped. Sutton's smile died. Malene stared at me like I'd just rewritten Gravity. That night, we sat on the floor eating pizza. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "Because you fight," I said. She leaned in. The kiss was slow. Real. Quiet. And for the first time in years, my mind went silent. 3 days later, her call shattered everything. "The elevator fell," she sobbed. "The south wall is failing. They're shutting us down." When I arrived, caution tape wrapped the building. "It was sabotage," she said. "Someone cut the brake line." She was done, broken. "Go home," she told me. "You can't fix this." She walked away. I stood there, staring at the sagging roof. Then I turned back to my truck. I wasn't done. I didn't go home. I told myself I would. I even drove halfway there, but my hands kept tightening on the steering wheel, my chest buzzing like I'd swallowed broken glass. I kept seeing the south wall in my head, the angle of the sag, the way the load wanted to travel but couldn't anymore. Malene was right. The damage was catastrophic. That didn't mean it was impossible. I turned the truck around. My phone was already in my hand by the time I pulled into Andy's site trailer. Andy was a foreman I trusted. He'd seen worse than this, and he knew when I didn't ask questions unless it mattered. "I need the crane," I said the second I walked in. "Tonight." He stared at me. "You look like hell." "I don't have time," I said. "I need shoring posts, a welder who knows how to shut up, and every favor you owe me." He leaned back, studying my face. "Is this legal?" "It will be," I said, "or it won't. But it's about public safety." Andy sighed. "You never ask small, do you?" "No," I said. He grabbed his radio. "Be there in an hour." Quote. I drove back to the ironworks and walked the perimeter with a flashlight. The cut steel wasn't subtle once you knew what to look for. Clean, intentional. This wasn't failure. This was sabotage. I called Inspector Miller. "Miller, it's roads," I said. "The building can fail outward, into the street or the river. If we wait for daylight, we're gambling with lives." Silence. Then, "Don't touch anything. I'm on my way." He arrived with a patrol car behind him. One look at the column and the tool marks, and his jaw tightened. "You're saying imminent hazard," he said. "I'm saying Gravity doesn't wait for hearings," I replied. He exhaled and pulled out his clipboard. "Emergency shoring permit. Limited scope. I supervise everything. You break one rule, and you're done." "Understood," I said. The permit went up on the gate. The officer photographed everything and headed for the security footage. Miller stood by like a hawk. At 4 in the morning, the crane rolled in under flashing lights. We worked fast and clean. Hydraulic jacks to take the load. Cut out the damaged column, fly the new beam through the skylight with inches to spare. I was on the radio, voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "Down 2 inches. Hold. Lock it." When the beam settled, I welded it myself. No shortcuts, no guesswork. By sunrise, the roof was level. I sat on the floor afterward, hands bleeding, lungs burning. That's when Malene walked in. She took it all in. The crane. The crew. The new steel standing where failure had been. "You fixed it," she whispered. "I told you," I said hoarsely. "I don't miss things." Miller cleared his throat. "Your building was sabotaged. We're stabilizing it under emergency authority." She looked at the evidence. Then, at me, she knelt down and pressed her lips to my dirty palm. "You are impossible," she said softly. "We have a hearing in an hour," I said, pulling her up. "Let's go." The city chamber was packed. Sutton sat confident, papers ready. Miller spoke first. "The failure was deliberate," he said. "Temporary stabilization was completed overnight. The structure is stable beyond minimum standards." He held up photos, then added, "Security footage and tools recovered link back to Mr. Sutton." The room buzzed. The gavel came down. Condemnation lifted. Maline's knees nearly gave out. I caught her elbow. Outside, sunlight hit her face and she laughed through tears. "You saved everything," she said. "We saved it." I corrected. She looked at me. "I can't pay you." "I don't want money," I said. I handed her a folded paper. "Partner," I said. 49%. I stay. I help you build this for real." Her hands shook as she read it. "You want to stay?" she asked. "I really do." She signed it right there against my chest and kissed me on the steps. For the first time, I wasn't just holding something up. I was choosing to stay. The kiss on the steps of City Hall didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a decision. Milline pulled back first, her forehead resting against mine, her hands still gripping my shirt like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. "You know this isn't going to be easy," she said quietly. "I don't do easy," I replied. She smiled at that, tired but real. Good, because neither do I. The days that followed were quieter but heavier. The investigation moved forward. Sutton stopped calling. The ironworks stayed open, but only barely. Every sound the building made still made my shoulders tense. Old habits don't vanish overnight. We worked side by side, not as rescuer and rescued anymore, but as partners. Real ones. We argued about layouts and schedules. We compromised on finishes and budgets. She pushed me to leave the site before midnight. I pushed her to sleep more than 4 hours. Some nights we ate lasagna on overturned crates. Other nights we were too tired to talk at all. Those were the nights she'd lean against me, her head on my shoulder, and I'd realize I wasn't checking beams or stress lines anymore. I was just there. One evening, weeks later, we stood on the mezzanine that almost never existed. The lights were warm. The floor felt solid under my boots. "People are going to dance here," she said. "They're going to trust it," I added. She looked at me. "I trust you." That hit harder than anything else. The first wedding came and went without a single problem. Then another. Then another. The building filled with laughter, music, life. The ironworks stopped feeling like a project and started feeling like a place. One night, long after everyone left, Milline locked the doors and leaned against them, exhaling. "It worked," she said. "We actually did it." I nodded. "It's standing." She walked over slowly. "So are you." I didn't answer right away. I took her hands. They weren't shaking anymore. I spent years thinking if I stopped moving, something bad would happen. I said that if I rested, I'd miss something. "And now?" she asked. "And now I know some things only hold because you stay." She smiled, eyes shining. "Good, because I'm not letting you leave." "I'm not planning to," I said. We didn't rush the rest. No big speeches, no promises shouted into the night, just quiet certainty. Shared mornings, shared keys, shared responsibility. Love didn't fix me. It didn't erase the weight I carried or silence my instincts. It just gave them somewhere safe to land. Sometimes, I still sit at that same table in the bistro, table 4. We go back there on slow nights, order coffee, and laugh about how wrong everything could have gone. I sat at the wrong table, I tell her. She always squeezes my hand and answers the same way. "You sat exactly where you were supposed to." And this time, I stay.